Wilton remains below the 10% affordable housing threshold. What proactive steps will you take to add diverse housing and avoid another 830G project?
Well, I do support trying to achieve 10% affordable housing in town, or in the whole town. So I do think we need to raise the target threshold for development of apartments to 15%, not to 10%, because we can never get to 15 or to 10% if we have a target of 10%. I'm sorry if that was complicated math. I think we should, first of all, there should be somewhere on our website that actually does an accounting of where we're at today. I tried to put together an article, an op-ed to discuss this, and there is nowhere on our website that currently brings you up to date on where we're at today. So nobody can plan because we don't know where we are. And I think that's an important thing. And if we actually care about it, you can't care about it. So I think that's something we should do. On ideas to solve that problem, again, I think we should have a target of 15%. Many of our neighbor towns have that. So I don't think that's something that we should be scared about. I think there are ideas, the town owns a lot of land. I think there's some private partnership ideas that we should do. You know, I'm not a developer. I don't know whether that works or doesn't work, but it's a great idea. A couple of people have suggested that we take a look at some of the state-owned land in town, Super 7. I think the idea's been around for a long time. Maybe we should look at that again. I think there are a great number of people in town that are creative. I don't think this should be something that's scary. The back of the envelope number I've put together is that we need 300 more affordable houses, or affordable housing units to be developed over the next 10 years. I don't think that's something that we should be scared about doing.
Mr. Hoffman?
Great. First I want to agree with what Trevor just said. I think that we need a way to look at the numbers on a town-wide basis. Currently, planning and zoning operates as a marvel of myopia. It looks at singular projects and takes that and tries to extrapolate, what we should do in affordable housing. And what that does is something that I think is really a problem. So a developer comes in to discuss a project, or if we go back to the mistake that the subcommittee made on the downtown zone in terms of not including affordable housing, no one looks at the developers and says, are you going to be a good corporate citizen of Wilton? And do you accept citizenship as your development, as part of Wilton and building Wilton's future? I agree completely with Trevor that we need to jump the number up to 15% of median income housing as a plan. The reason I say median income, if you wonder what a typical affordable apartment costs in Wilton, it's generally around $3,000 to $4,000 a month, which means if you don't make $140,000 to $150,000 a year in your household, it's simply not affordable if you use a calculation that people should spend no more than a third of their income to pay for their housing costs. So again, I mean, this is messed up. Okay, if you look at the way the individual decisions were made on any of these developments about affordable housing, they were made in a singular unit in a vacuum, and it simply is not going to solve the problem. With regard to the public and private partnerships, I really would encourage planning and zoning and other areas of the town, including the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen, to really have open sessions about what we mean by public and private partnerships in Wilton. There are a lot of great ideas. I fear they won't be executed unless we get that kind of initiative going. Thank you.
Ms. Igan-Bennett?
I'm going to again echo what Ken had said with regards to median income housing. This is a very important fact to understand, that the median income in Wilton is approximately $125,000. So it's really, Ken was very gracious and he glazed over the downtown center development. However, the current P&Z Commission failed to acknowledge their own error with contracts with this developer to ensure that we met the threshold for median income housing. So their negligence actually left Wilton more vulnerable to this state legislation. And so it's very important for us as a community to come together. There are various tactics and ways that we can work with developers. There's opportunity for adaptive reuse, which is the use of old historic buildings. Again, a sentiment that I've gathered from the community while canvassing, we can consider inclusionary zoning, zoning benefits, density bonuses. There's a variety of opportunity for us to fairly and agreeably negotiate with developers, which is the opposite of what the current P&Z Commission has done. Thank you.
Ms. Ritz?
Hi.
You could just leave your microphone.
I know, I'm a little fidgety with the mic. So this is another situation where an extensive plan that had been thought out, thought through, examined, discussed, everybody understood what was going into it. This is where this plan really would have benefited us, because then we wouldn't be in a position where we're going, how did we get here? How did this happen? We would have been tracking it from the beginning. We would have been actively going out in search of developers who want to work in this type of community in line with the community values. We would not find ourselves in a situation with a big town, oopsie, I forgot to talk, oopsie, Kimco, we didn't meet the threshold there with the affordable housing minimum. So rather than going back and negotiating like you would in a business situation, trying to get them on board, work with us after we've had a long-term negotiation with these developers, that would have been to our benefit, to go to them after the fact and say, hey, we overlooked this by mistake. Can you please work with us and increase that number by a little bit? A situation in the future would be, we would need to potentially look at landlords and say, hey, are you willing to convert some of these locations? Are there buildings within our walkable environment that potentially are underutilized, or that we could add to by creating incentives to encourage them to build maybe a second level and have that be all affordable housing? But tracking it from beginning to end is what we need to be doing, because every 10 years, one of these will go off affordable housing. And if we're not tracking it, then how do we know where we stand?
Ms. Rainey?
So I think Wilton does not exist in a bubble, right? We are not we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We are surrounded by other towns who are doing this successfully. I believe New Canaan and Fairfield have both received exceptions from the 830G developments because of all the progress they have made towards having more median income housing in their towns. This is simple math. Right now, Wilton is, I believe, just below 4% for median income housing. If we continue, as the current P&Z is doing, of only requiring 10% of affordable housing in new developments, we will never meet the state mandated threshold of 10%, right? That's just math. So we do need to increase the percentage in new developments. If we look at other towns, Westport currently requires 20% affordable housing in their new developments. New Canaan requires 15%, Darien 14%. These are towns that are making headway into having more options. We should also, as others have said, increase our threshold to 15% for new developments, and that is going to help us avoid future 830G developments like the one sort of straight ahead across the street from the library.
Mr. Christ?
Well, I'm for affordable housing, and I do think that many folks in this room have invested an awful lot in taxes in this town. I certainly have been here for 16 years and have paid a small fortune in taxes. I believe that the lowest rung of our socioeconomic folks that are interested in this town should have an opportunity to live in this town. But I also think that there needs to be some practical math applied to them having a chance to live in this town and make ends meet, given inflation going through the roof, and having a median income of this town at $150,000. That's a big rent. So we're investing an awful lot of time in this shiny object that's been around since 1989, which is 830G. And I do think that there's a lot of merit in 830G. I also think that there'd be a great opportunity for us to get well out ahead and work with developers on the commercial capacity that is available, particularly around the Route 7 area. There's some commercial capacity still available downtown, and get out ahead and work very closely with these developers to ensure that there is an affordable housing mandate that's met, that's directed by the town of Wilton, not Hartford, Connecticut. The last time I checked, I don't know what Hartford, Connecticut does for me as an individual, a resident of this town. I think this town does an awful lot for one another. It's Wilton that powers this forward, it's not Hartford. And I do believe that affordable housing should be paramount, but I also think it has its limitations.
Any other comments on that question? Yes, go ahead.
Well, so I agree with Colin. We should have affordable housing in town. And it shouldn't be a mandate necessarily from the state. But I haven't seen anything from P&Z in the last 10 years that has suggested that Wilton step up to 10%. So thank God the state has done something.
One other thing I just want to add to this, if I could. Wilton has an artificial appearance of success of buildings surrounding and being part of the town. If you're not aware, the current commercial vacancy rate in Wilton hovers around 50%, which is about 40% lower than it is in Fairfield or some of the other surrounding towns. So if you're looking for building stock in Wilton, and by the way, the quality of a lot of that space has gone down tremendously over the last 10 years as owners haven't supported that infrastructure and kept up with maintenance. So there is a hidden problem in Wilton behind a lot of this, which is the excess of empty office space that is in this town. We do have and then if you think of the results of that and not having enough people downtown, we do have enough parking for the tumbleweeds after 9 p.m., but there isn't a whole lot of activity that is happening to solve those problems. And I think that goes along with the 830G discussion. We need vibrancy, we need people, we need more development that is well thought out and economically judged to fit in the town.